Welcome to my channel, U.S. Coin History World. Today we are going to talk about 4 interesting Lincoln pennies that many people may have seen in circulation, but never realized their historical importance or potential collector value. These coins are the 1971 D1 cent coin, the 1977 1 cent coin, the 1983 D1 cent coin, and the 1995 1 cent coin. Each of these pennies tells a unique story about American coinage, mint production, and the changing metals used in U.S. coins. The story begins with the 1971 D Lincoln cent. The 1971 D1 cent coin is a United States Lincoln cent that was produced at the Denver Mint in 1971 and represents an important part of modern American coinage history. This coin belongs to the long-running Lincoln cent series that first began in 1909 to honor the 100th anniversary of the birth of President Abraham Lincoln. The design of the coin was created by sculptor Victor David Brenner, whose initials V to B appear on some Lincoln cents, and who designed the famous portrait of Abraham Lincoln that appears on the front of the coin. The Lincoln cent became one of the most recognizable coins in American history and has remained in production for more than a century, with several reverse design changes over time. The 1971 D cent continues the design style that was used from 1959 until 2008. Featuring the Lincoln Memorial Building on the reverse side of the coin. On the obverse side of the 1971 D1 cent coin, there is a right-facing portrait of Abraham Lincoln. The portrait shows Lincoln with a calm and dignified expression, and it has become one of the most familiar images in American coinage. Above Lincoln's head, the word Liberty appears along the left side of the coin, while the year 1971 appears on the right side. Just below the date is the small mint mark D, which indicates that the coin was struck at the Denver Mint in Colorado. Above Lincoln's portrait along the upper rim is the national motto, "In God We Trust." These inscriptions together represent the national identity and values of the United States. The portrait itself is detailed yet simple, designed in a way that allows it to be easily recognized even after years of circulation. The reverse side of the coin displays the Lincoln Memorial Building located in Washington, D.C. This design was introduced in 1959 to celebrate the 150th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. The Lincoln Memorial is shown in a detailed architectural style with columns and steps that reflect the real monument. If the coin is examined closely, a small statue of Abraham Lincoln can actually be seen sitting inside the memorial between the columns. This tiny detail is one of the fascinating features of the Lincoln Memorial cent design and is often admired by coin collectors. Above the building, the words United States of America appear, while the phrase E pluribus unum is written just below that. At the bottom of the coin, the denomination 1 cent is clearly displayed. The 1971 D Lincoln cent was produced using a composition of 95% copper and 5% zinc and tin. This metal composition was standard for Lincoln cents from 1909 until 1982, before the United States Mint changed the composition to copper-plated zinc due to rising copper prices. Because of this high copper content, the 1971 D cent has a rich reddish-brown color when it is in new condition. Over time, coins in circulation often change color due to oxidation and wear, turning from bright red to red-brown and eventually to a darker brown shade. Collectors typically classify these coins based on their color, as RD for red, RB for red-brown, and BN for brown. Coins with full original red color are usually considered the most desirable and valuable among collectors. The Denver Mint produced a very large number of these coins in 1971. The official mintage of the 1971 D Lincoln cent was approximately 2,891,438,900 coins. This extremely high production number means that the coin is generally very common in circulated condition. Millions of these coins were released into circulation across the United States, where they were used in everyday transactions such as buying small goods, receiving change from stores, or collecting in piggy banks. Because so many were made, most circulated examples today are only worth their face value of 1 cent or slightly more due to the copper content. However, coins in exceptional uncirculated condition can be worth more to collectors. Uncirculated examples of the 1971 D cent can sometimes be found in original mint rolls or coin collections that were stored carefully for many years. Coins that show no wear and retain their original mint luster are usually graded by professional grading services. These services evaluate the coin's condition on a scale from 1 to 70, with higher numbers representing better quality. For modern coins like the 1971 D-cent, collectors often look for grades of MS 65 or higher, where MS stands for mint state. Coins graded MS 65 are considered gem quality and display strong luster with only minor contact marks. Even higher grades such as MS 67 or MS 68 are extremely difficult to find because most coins receive small scratches or marks during the minting and handling process. The minting process for the 1971 D-cent began with the preparation of copper alloy strips, which were rolled to the correct thickness. Blanks were then punched from these strips and heated in a process called annealing to soften the metal. After cleaning and polishing, the blanks were placed into coin presses where dies stamped the designs onto the metal with high pressure. Each coin was struck quickly and then released into large bins where it was mixed with thousands of others before being packaged into bags and shipped to banks. Because coins often hit each other during this process, small marks known as bag marks can appear on their surfaces even before they enter circulation. While the 1971 D-cent is not generally considered rare, there are still some interesting varieties and errors that collectors search for. Mint errors can occur during the coin production process when something unusual happens during striking or preparation. Examples of such errors include double dies, off-center strikes, clip planchets, and die cracks. Double die coins show a slight doubling effect on letters or numbers due to a misalignment during the die creation process. Off-center strikes occur when the coin blank is not properly positioned during striking, resulting in part of the design missing. Clip planchets happen when the metal blank is cut incorrectly from the strip, leaving a curved or straight missing section on the coin. These types of errors can make a coin much more interesting and valuable to collectors. The condition of a 1971 D-cent plays a major role in determining its market value. Circulated coins with visible were usually worth 1 to 5 cents depending on copper prices. Red-brown uncirculated coins may be worth a few cents to a few dollars depending on their quality. Bright red uncirculated examples in high grades such as MS 65 or MS 66 may sell for several dollars. Extremely high-grade examples graded MS 67 or above can sell for much higher prices because they are rare in such pristine condition. Auction records show that top-quality examples of this coin have sold for hundreds of dollars when graded by major professional grading companies. Another interesting aspect of the 1971 D-cent is its connection to the broader economic history of the United States. During the early 1970s, inflation was rising, and next we move to the 1977 Lincoln cent. The 1977 1-cent coin is part of the famous Lincoln cent series of the United States, a coin that represents more than a century of American history and tradition. This coin carries the image of President Abraham Lincoln, one of the most respected leaders in American history, and continues a design style that was used for many decades on United States pennies. The Lincoln cent was first introduced in 1909 to celebrate the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth, making it the first regular circulating U.S. coin to feature a real historical figure instead of a symbolic image. Since that time, the Lincoln cent has become one of the most widely recognized and collected coins in the world, and the 1977 issue represents a significant part of that long-running series. The front side of the 1977 1-cent coin shows a detailed portrait of Abraham Lincoln facing to the right. This portrait was designed by Victor David Brenner, a talented sculptor whose initials VB became well known among coin collectors. The portrait captures Lincoln's calm and thoughtful expression and reflects the dignity associated with his leadership during one of the most challenging periods in United States history. Above the portrait, the national motto, "In God We Trust," appears along the top edge of the coin. On the left side of the coin, the word liberty is clearly visible, representing one of the core values of the United States. On the right side of the coin, the date, 1977, appears, marking the year the coin was produced. Coins from this year may have been minted at different facilities, And if the coin was struck at the Denver Mint, it will include a small D mint mark below the date, while coins struck at the Philadelphia Mint typically have no mint mark. The reverse side of the 1977 1-cent coin displays the famous Lincoln Memorial Building located in Washington, D.C. This design was introduced in 1959 to commemorate the 150th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth and remained in use until 2008. The Lincoln Memorial is depicted with a series of columns that resemble the real monument, and if the coin is examined closely, a small statue of Abraham Lincoln can be seen seated inside the building. This tiny detail is one of the most fascinating aspects of the Lincoln Memorial penny design because it means Lincoln appears on both sides of the coin, once as a portrait and once as a statue. Above the memorial building, the words United States of America are written in large letters, while the Latin phrase E pluribus unum, meaning out of many one, appears just below it. At the bottom of the coin, the denomination 1 cent is displayed clearly, indicating the value of the coin. The 1977 1-cent coin was produced using a metal composition of 95% copper and 5% zinc and tin. This copper-rich alloy had been used for Lincoln cents for many decades and gives the coin its distinctive reddish color when newly minted. Because copper reacts with the environment over time, coins often change color depending on how they are stored and used. Freshly minted coins usually have a bright red appearance, but as they circulate and age, they can gradually turn into a red-brown shade and eventually into a darker brown color. Coin collectors often categorize Lincoln cents based on this color, using the designations red, red-brown, and brown. Red coins that still retain their original mint color are typically considered the most valuable among collectors because they are more difficult to preserve over long periods of time. During 1977, the United States Mint produced an extremely large number of 1-cent coins to meet the needs of everyday commerce across the country. The Philadelphia Mint produced approximately 4,469,930,000 coins, while the Denver Mint produced about 4,149,063,300 coins. These massive mintage numbers mean that the 1977 penny is considered a very common coin in circulated condition. Billions of these coins entered circulation and were used in daily transactions across the United States for many years. They passed through the hands of countless people as change from stores, vending machines, and banks, becoming a normal part of everyday life. Because so many were produced, it is still relatively easy to find 1977 pennies in circulation or in old coin jars even decades after they were first minted. Although the coin is common, collectors still find interest in searching for high-quality examples that have been preserved in excellent condition. Coins that were never used in circulation and still show their original mint luster are described as uncirculated. These coins are graded using a numerical scale from 1 to 70, with higher numbers representing better condition. The term mint state, abbreviated as MS, is used to describe coins that show no signs of wear. A coin graded MS 60 may show many contact marks, but still has no wear, while coins graded MS 65 or higher are considered gem quality with strong luster and relatively few marks. Extremely high-grade examples such as MS 67 or MS 68 are much rarer because it is difficult for coins to remain completely free from small scratches or marks during the minting and handling process. The minting process for the 1977 penny began with large sheets of copper alloy metal that were rolled to the proper thickness. Circular blanks known as planchets were punched out of these metal sheets and then heated in a furnace to soften the metal. After cleaning and polishing, the blanks were placed into high-speed coin presses where steel dies struck the design onto both sides of the coin with great pressure. Once struck, the coins were released into large containers where they often bumped against one another, creating small marks known as bag marks. These coins were then packaged in large bags and shipped to banks throughout the United States, where they eventually entered circulation. Even though the 1977 penny is common, collectors sometimes search for mint errors or unusual varieties that occur during production process. Mint errors can make a coin more valuable because they are unusual and often produced in limited numbers. Some examples of mint errors include off-center strikes, where the design is not perfectly centered on the coin, leaving part of the design missing. Another type is a clipped planchet, which occurs when the metal blank is cut incorrectly from the metal strip, leaving a curved missing section along the edge. Double die errors can also occur when the design is accidentally impressed twice on the die during its creation, resulting in letters or numbers that appear doubled. Die cracks, where small cracks form in the coin die and create raised lines on the coin, are another type of error that collectors sometimes find on Lincoln cents from this period. In terms of value, most circulated 1977 pennies are generally worth only their face value of 1 cent. However, because the coin contains a large amount of copper, some people keep these coins as copper bullion, because the metal value can sometimes be higher than the face value depending on copper market prices. Uncirculated examples of the coin can be worth more, especially if they retain their original red color and strong luster. Coins graded around MS 63 or MS 64 may sell for a few dollars, while higher grade coins graded MS 66 or MS 67 can sometimes sell for significantly more. Auction records have shown that exceptional specimens with nearly perfect surfaces can sell for hundreds of dollars when certified by professional grading companies. The 1977 penny also represents an interesting period. The 1983 D1 cent coin is an important issue in the long history of United States Lincoln cents and represents a significant transition period in American coinage. This coin was produced in 1983 at the Denver Mint and carries the famous image of President Abraham Lincoln on the front. The Lincoln Cent series began in 1909 to celebrate the 100th anniversary of Lincoln's birth, and it was the first regular circulating United States coin to feature a real historical person. Over the decades, the design has remained one of the most recognizable coin images in the world. The 1983 D penny continues that tradition, while also reflecting changes in materials used to produce American coins. On the front side of the 1983 D1 cent coin, there is a portrait of Abraham Lincoln facing to the right. This portrait was designed by the sculptor Victor David Brenner and has been used on the penny for more than a century with only minor adjustments. The design shows Lincoln with a thoughtful and calm expression, symbolizing leadership and determination. Above the portrait along the rim of the coin, the national motto, "In God We Trust," is displayed. On the left side of Lincoln's portrait, the word Liberty appears, while on the right side the date 1983 is clearly visible. Just below the date is the mint mark D, which indicates that the coin was struck at the Denver Mint in Colorado. Coins minted at the Philadelphia Mint in the same year do not carry a mint mark. The reverse side of the 1983 D penny features the Lincoln Memorial Building located in Washington, D.C. This reverse design was introduced in 1959 to celebrate the 150th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth and remained in use until 2008. The Lincoln Memorial is shown with detailed columns and steps representing the real monument. If the coin is examined carefully, a tiny image of the statue of Abraham Lincoln can be seen seated inside the memorial building. This small detail makes the Lincoln Memorial cent unique because Lincoln appears on both sides of coin. Above the building, the words United States of America are written, while the Latin phrase E pluribus unum, meaning out of many one, appears between the top of the building and the country name. At the bottom of the coin, the denomination 1 cent is clearly displayed. One of the most interesting aspects of the 1983 D penny is its metal composition. Before 1982, United States pennies were made primarily of copper, consisting of 95% copper and 5% zinc and tin. However, rising copper prices in the late 1970s and early 1980s made it too expensive for the government to continue producing coins with that much copper. As a result, the United States Mint changed the composition of the cent in 1982. Starting in late 1982 and continuing into 1983, pennies were made with a zinc core that was coated with a thin layer of copper. This new composition consists of about 97.5% zinc and only 2.5% copper. The change greatly reduced the cost of producing the coin while still giving it the familiar copper color. Because of this change, the 1983 D penny is part of the early years of the modern copper-plated zinc cent. The weight of the 1983 D penny reflects this new composition. Earlier copper pennies weighed about 3.11 grams, while the new copper-plated zinc pennies weigh about 2.5 grams. This difference in weight can help collectors identify the type of metal used in a particular coin. The diameter of the coin remains about 19 millimeters, and the edge is plain without any ridges. The coin also has a smooth circular shape and is relatively small compared to other U.S. coins. Even though the metal inside the coin is mostly zinc, the thin copper coating gives it the traditional reddish appearance that people expect from a penny. The Denver Mint produced a very large number of 1983 D pennies. The total mintage for this coin was approximately 6,467,199,428 pieces. This extremely high number means the coin is very common in circulation and can easily be found in coin jars, piggy banks, or pocket change even today. During the early 1980s, the United States economy required billions of small coins for everyday transactions, and the mint worked at high speed to produce them. These coins were distributed to banks across the country and entered circulation, where they were used in daily purchases and transactions. Although the 1983 D penny is common, collectors still find interest in this coin because of certain varieties and mint errors. One of the most famous varieties from this year is the 1983 double die reverse. On this variety, the lettering on the reverse side of the coin appears doubled due to a mistake in the die manufacturing process. Words such as 1 cent and United States of America may show noticeable doubling when examined with magnification. This error variety is rare and can be worth a significant amount of money, depending on its condition. Coins showing clear doubling are highly sought after by collectors and can sell for hundreds or even thousands of dollars. Other mint errors can also occur on 1983 D pennies. Off-center strikes are one example, where the coin design is not perfectly centered on the blank. This can leave part of the coin blank, while the rest shows the design. Clipped planchet errors occur when the metal blank is cut incorrectly from a metal sheet, leaving a curved missing portion along the edge of the coin. Die cracks, which appear as raised lines on the coin, can also form when the coin dies begin to wear out during production. These types of mint errors are often collected because they represent unusual events during the coin manufacturing process. The condition of a coin greatly affects its value in the collector market. Most circulated in 1983. D pennies are worth only their face value of 1 cent because they are so common. However, uncirculated examples that still show their original mint luster can be worth more. Coins are graded on a scale from 1 to 70, with higher numbers indicating better preservation. Coins graded MS 63 or MS 64 are considered average uncirculated pieces, while coins graded MS 65 or higher are considered gem quality. Higher grade coins often show strong luster, sharp details, and very few surface marks. Extremely high-grade examples such as MS 67 or MS 68 are very rare and can sell for much higher prices at coin auctions. The production of the 1983 D penny involved several steps in the minting process. First, large coils of zinc metal were rolled to the proper thickness. These sheets were then punched into round blanks called planchets. The planchets were cleaned and prepared before being fed into high-speed coin presses. Inside the press, 2 steel dies struck the design onto both sides of blank with great pressure. The newly struck coins were then released into large bins where they often bumped into each other, sometimes causing small marks. Finally, the coins were packaged in bags and shipped to Federal Reserve Bank for distribution across the United States. The 1983 D penny also represents an important point in the economic history of the United States because it reflects the government's response to rising metal prices. By switching from mostly copper to zinc with a copper coating, the mint was able to continue producing pennies at a lower cost. This change ensured that the penny remained in circulation despite economic challenges. Today, most modern pennies still use this copper-plated zinc composition. Finally, we look at the 1995 Lincoln cent. The 1995 1-cent coin is part of the long-running Lincoln cent series of the United States and represents an important piece of modern American coinage. The coin features the well-known portrait of Abraham Lincoln, one of the most respected presidents in United States history. The Lincoln cent series first began in 1909 to celebrate the 100th anniversary of Lincoln's birth and became the first regular circulating American coin to display the image of a real historical person rather than a symbolic figure. Over the decades, this coin has become one of the most recognizable coins in the world, and the 1995 penny continues that long tradition. Billions of these coins were produced and used in everyday commerce, making them familiar to millions of people across the United States. The front side of the 1995 1-cent coin shows a right-facing portrait of Abraham Lincoln. This portrait was originally designed by the sculptor Victor David Brenner and has remained largely unchanged since the early 20th century. The portrait shows Lincoln with a thoughtful expression, symbolizing wisdom, leadership, and determination. Along the top edge of the coin, the national motto, "In God We Trust," appears in large letters. On the left side of the coin, the word liberty is displayed, representing one of the fundamental values of the United States. On the right side, the date 1995 is clearly visible, marking the year the coin was minted. If the coin was produced at the Denver Mint, it carries a small D mint mark below the date, while coins struck at the Philadelphia Mint typically do not show a mint mark. Both versions were widely circulated and are common today. The reverse side of the 1995 penny features the famous Lincoln Memorial Building located in Washington, D.C. This design was introduced in 1959 to commemorate the 150th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. The memorial is shown with a series of tall columns and a detailed structure representing the real monument. If the coin is examined closely with magnification, a tiny statue of Abraham Lincoln can be seen seated inside the memorial between the columns. This small but fascinating detail makes the Lincoln Memorial Cent unique because Lincoln appears on both sides of the coin. Above the building, the words United States of America are written along the upper rim, while the Latin phrase E pluribus unum, meaning out of many one, appears below that. At the bottom of the coin, the denomination, 1 cent, clearly identifies the value of the coin. The 1995 penny is made from a copper-plated zinc composition, which is different from the earlier copper pennies produced before 1982. The coin contains approximately 97.5% zinc, with a thin outer layer of about 2.5% copper. This change in composition was made by the United States Mint in the early 1980s because the rising price of copper made the traditional copper coins too expensive to produce. By switching to a zinc core with a copper coating, the Mint was able to continue producing pennies at much lower cost while still maintaining the familiar copper color that people associate with the coin. The weight of the coin is about 2.5 grams, which is lighter than the older copper pennies that weighed about 3.11 grams. The diameter remains about 19 millimeters, and the edge of the coin is plain without ridges. The year 1995 saw extremely high production numbers for the Lincoln cent because pennies were still widely used in everyday transactions. The Philadelphia Mint produced approximately 6,411,440,000 pennies in 1995, while the Denver Mint produced around 7,128,560,000 coins. These enormous mintage figures mean that the 1995 penny is very common in circulated condition. Billions of these coins entered circulation and were used for many years in stores, vending machines, banks, and other everyday situations. Because of this large reduction, it is still very easy to find 1995 pennies in pocket change, coin jars, and collections today. Although the coin itself is common, collectors still find interest in searching for certain varieties or mint errors associated with the 1995 penny. One of the most famous varieties from this year is the 1995 double die obverse. On this variety, the lettering on the front of the coin shows noticeable doubling caused by a misalignment during the die creation process. Words such as liberty and in God we trust may appear doubled when examined with magnification. This error variety is highly sought after by coin collectors because it is relatively rare compared to the normal coins. Well-preserved examples of the 1995 double die penny have sold for hundreds or even thousands of dollars, depending on their condition and clarity of the doubling. In addition to double die varieties, other mint errors can occur on coins from this year. Off-center strikes sometimes happen when the coin blank is not properly aligned inside the coin press, causing the design to be struck off to one side. Clip planchet errors occur when the metal blank is incorrectly cut from the sheet, leaving a curved or straight missing portion along the edge of the coin. Die cracks may also appear when small cracks develop in the steel dies used to strike the coins. These cracks produce raised lines on the coin's surface and can make the coin unique. Collectors often search through large numbers of pennies hoping to find these unusual mint errors, because they can be significantly more valuable than ordinary coins. The value of a 1995 penny largely depends on its condition and whether it has any rare varieties or errors. Most circulated coins that have been used in everyday transactions are worth only their face value of 1 cent. However, uncirculated coins that have never been used and still retain their original mint luster can be worth more to collectors. Coin grading services use a scale from 1 to 70 to describe the condition of coins. Coins in mint state condition are graded between MS 60 and MS 70. A coin graded MS 63 or MS 64 may have a few small marks, but still shows strong detail and luster, while coins graded MS 65 or higher are considered gem quality. Extremely high-grade coins, such as MS 67 or above, are much rarer, because it is difficult for coins to remain nearly perfect during production and handling. The minting process for the 1995 penny involved several steps similar to those used for other modern coins. Large sheets of zinc metal were rolled to proper thickness and then punched into circular blanks known as planchets. These planchets were cleaned and prepared before being fed into high-speed coin presses. In the press, 2 engraved steel dies struck the design onto the coin with tremendous pressure, creating the image of Abraham Lincoln on the front and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. After being struck, the coins were released into large containers where they often came into contact with each other, sometimes creating small surface marks. These 4 pennies may look ordinary at first glance, but each one represents a different moment in the history of U.S. coin production. From the copper-rich coins of the early 1970s to the zinc-based pennies of the 1980s and the collectible era varieties of the 1990s, they remind us that even the smallest coin can carry an interesting story and sometimes surprising value. If you enjoy discovering the history and value of coins like these, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to U.S. Coin History World, and share it with fellow coin collectors. You never know. The next rare coin might already be hiding in your pocket change.